Hey guys, so it's now tomorrow and we've let our dough sit covered. So now it's time to continue making our pizza. So first we need to take the cover off the dough. And as you can see, it expanded. So the next step is to divide this in half because this is enough dough to make 2 pizzas. So we're gonna take our cutting board. Nope. Now the thing about dough, it tends to stick to everything. So by putting flour on our hands and on our work surface, it won't stick as much. So we're gonna take the dough out. There we are. See? And now, because this is enough dough for 2 pizzas, we're gonna split it in half. And I'm just gonna tear it in half to do that. No, I'm not. I'm gonna use a knife. All right, so we're gonna cut this in half. Now, one thing to remember is we are working with sharp objects, so we wanna make sure that we are being safe and not keeping our hands too close to the sharp parts of the knife. So, I'm going to make a little ball with the dough. And if you find that your dough is too sticky, just put some flour on your hands and it will take the stickiness away from the dough. So we've got one ball. And now we'll do the other. And now we've got our second one. So those go into the bowls and they get set aside for a few minutes. Next, while those are sitting, we're gonna go ahead and cut up our pineapple. All right, so we have our pineapple. Before we cut the pineapple, we're gonna set the oven to 425 degrees. And while that's heating up, we're going to go ahead and dice up our pineapple. So we're going to need our pineapple, a cutting board, and a sharp knife. And we're going to need something to put the pineapple bits into when we're done. So we set the pineapple on its side. And we're going to use this knife. Now again, this is a sharp knife. I need to make sure that I'm careful. So the first step is to cut off the top. Maybe. There we go. Alright. There we go. Top's off. Now we cut off the bottom. Always making sure that I'm cutting away from me. I never want to cut towards myself because if I slip, then I'm going to injure myself. Now there's a couple different ways that you can do this next step. You can cut it into quarters and then shave the sides off. I like shaving the sides off now because that's not moving anywhere. So, and you don't want to eat the skin of it. You want to eat the insides. So, Okay, so we've got most of it. There's a little bit of touching up to do to get rid of all of the skin. Alright, so we've cut the skin off and now we're left with the inside of the pineapple. What we need to do now is we're going to cut it into 4 pieces. So we're going to cut right down the middle. Again, making sure that my fingers are above the knife on the not sharp side. Okay. Now that that is done, the inner corner here is the core of the pineapple. You don't want to eat the core of the pineapple. It's not tasty. So we're going to cut down and cut the core off. And you can test it with your knife to see if it goes in. And it goes in pretty easy, then you've got the core off. Whereas if I tried to do it here, it's kind of tough. So, yep, another core done. One thing to remember when cutting pineapple is because it's so juicy, your hands are going to get wet. Every once in a while, it might be a good idea to dry your hands off, or wash them for that matter, so they don't get sticky and so that you don't slip and accidentally cut yourself. Alright, so we have our pineapple and we're ready to dice it up into smaller pieces. Alright, so we are ready to dice up our pineapple. So we're going to cut that in half. An important thing about using sharp knives, and Mr. Ryan actually sharpened these knives before we started. A lot of people will accidentally cut themselves because a knife isn't sharp enough. So it's important to have a sharp knife to do this and not a dull one. This is going to be a lot of pineapple. I'm okay with that. Alright, so we've got our pineapple all diced up and ready to go onto the pizza. Now we just need to take the dough and roll it into the shape of a pizza. Now it's been a while since I've rolled some pizza dough, so we'll see how well this works. First I'm going to get some flour on my hands again so that the dough doesn't stick. And we're going to make a mess today, guys. So the recipe that we've been following, it says to roll or stretch out the dough by hand. This is a rolling pin. You can also use this to roll out your dough. Although on a cutting board that's moving all over the place, it might be just as easy to use our hands. So we're going to do that. When I used to work at a pizza place, guys, all of our pizzas were square or rectangle. So using a rolling pin was pretty easy. And we would roll it out right on a counter so nothing would move. So I don't think our pizza is going to be a perfect circle, which is fine because the pan that we're going to cook it on is this one. So as long as it fits, we can make it a pizza. Alright guys, so it is time to take our pizza dough and put it onto our baking sheet. So I'm going to grab 2 sides and just lay it right on. Alright, so we have bunched up around the edges to make a sort of crust. We'll see how well that works. The next step is to take some olive oil and brush it onto the dough. What this is going to do is it's going to keep our toppings from making the dough too soggy. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to spread out. Well, sounds like our oven is ready, which is perfect timing. So we have our olive oil on the dough. Next we're going to take our sauce and open it up. You heard that popping sound. That means that the sauce was not opened before this. That's really important to know when you buy sauce at the store. You don't want a jar that's already been opened, because after you open it, you need to put it in the refrigerator. So I'm going to spread some sauce out onto our pizza. And then I'm just going to use the spoon to spread it out. Now, some people like a lot of sauce on their pizza, some people like a little bit of sauce on their pizza. I'm more of a in the middle kind of guy. Alright guys, so we have our sauce spread out on the pizza. The next step is my favorite stuff, cheese. We're going to put cheese on top of the sauce. I am using mozzarella cheese because that is the best kind of cheese. You might think that's an opinion, but it's a fact. No, really, it's an opinion. Alright, so we've got cheese on the pizza. Next, we're going to take pineapple on the pizza because pineapple should always be on pizza. So, we have our diced up pineapple. And we're just going to start placing them around the pizza. Alright, so we have our first pizza topped and ready to go. Our oven is already set, so we're going to throw it in there. We'll have to check the recipe for the time. I want to say I remember reading 30 minutes, but we'll keep an eye on it just to make sure. Alright, and there we go. Bye, pizza. Alright guys, so our pizza is about done cooking, so we're going to go ahead and pull it out. And I'm using a hot pad to make sure that I don't touch anything that's going to burn my hands. Alright, so we've pulled our pizza from the oven. We've let it sit for a couple minutes, that way it kind of turns into a good solid pizza. So I'm going to be careful cutting this. One, because I have a sharpish cutter. Two, the pan might still be hot. So anytime I touch the pan, oh hi kitty. Anytime I touch the pan, it's going to be with us. So we're going to cut this pizza into 8 slices. So I'm going to cut it once, going that way. And now I'm going to cut it diagonally. Get him!